What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, wouldn't you know it, a couple of hours after Newswave went live yesterday, Nintendo announces a direct for today, and in fact, it will be airing a couple of hours after Newswave goes live this morning, but I figured leading into that, we could go over some of the things we could expect, as well as a few things that have actually been hinted at for this presentation, and of course, I'll be doing a full reaction to it after the direct happens and then posting later on this morning, so I guess keep an eye out for that one. We also have PlayStation Plus for the month of April being revealed, and looks like one of the better lineups I've seen in quite some time. And with the shutdown of Monolith Productions, of course, there was a lot of people reflecting on their history and different games even before Shadow of Mordor. Well, there's one series in particular people are calling for making a return, and it looks like a few people right now are pretty optimistic about this actually happening, maybe with a full-on remaster. All of that and more. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Small Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or the link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with the Nintendo Switch 2. Go figure, we'll be seeing much more about this next week when they do that presentation. Of course, today is more about the Switch 1, or the current Switch, with the direct that's upcoming. But it seems like Nintendo, of course, is setting things up, getting ready for next week, not just for the digital presentation, but also the hands-on experiences that are going to be taking place afterwards, which I think people have kind of forgotten a little bit about that. I mean, only certain people got in, of course, for the hands-on events, but like you can see this video here, this was posted up over on the Nintendo Switch 2 subreddit, showing the first footage of the Nintendo Switch 2 Experience event in New York, and I mean, it's what you'd expect, the big Nintendo Switch 2 logo, all decked out in red, Experience New York, but naturally, people are zooming in. What's in those boxes there? Are there Switch 2s in there? And I mean, look, they're getting set up for when the Switch 2 event happens, and they have to keep things under wrap here, but it's just exciting, of course, going into a new generation, asking these questions, trying to get any little glimpse you can of the device, but after the event next week, I mean, just a few days after, people will have hands-on time with it. The press and media will also be doing hands-on, so we'll be hearing all kinds of stuff, I'm sure, about the different games, the system itself, how it works, snapping the Joy-Cons on. There'll be a lot of stuff coming out, and it should be pretty fun. Also, we did have a new fighter that was announced for recent Fatal Fury, and it's Christiano Ronaldo. Yeah, take a look. Here's the trailer for it. Now, apparently, Ronaldo will have a couple of different moves here, which includes headed clearance. Looks like a headbutt, an echo shot. He actually kicks the ball at the opponent. And their description reads, one of the top football players in the world. He uses his time off to visit Southtown to hone his new football skills. The various techniques he has developed playing football make him an unstoppable force even in the season. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at this trailer right now, seeing Cristiano Ronaldo just kick a ball at some of these opponents, which is, I mean, just hilarious. And it's weird. It caught a lot of people off guard to see Cristiano Ronaldo in this trailer. But I mean, he's very famous. There's also ties between SNK ownership and the club that he's currently playing for. So that all lines up. Either way, he'll be making his way to Fatal Fury at the end of next month. So I guess keep an eye out if you want to kick a ball at some of the different fighters in the game. Oh, and it does look like we'll be seeing Rocksteady stick with Unreal Engine for the next Batman game, which we can see this posted up. This is over on Tech4 Gamers, saying job listings for the project confirm that the team intends to use Unreal Engine 5 during development. The project is also targeting a cross-generation launch with PS5, Xbox Series X, and then future consoles, which, not shocking, we've discussed this many times. Any game that's starting up right about now, you're also looking to next generation systems. Just target specs mostly, or just getting things set up for it. But because it takes 4 or 5 years minimum, it feels like, for some of these larger games to come out, I mean, yeah, you're looking at like 2029, 2030. And I mean, it feels like forever now to get there, but it sneaks up pretty quick. However, in this case, yes, you may as well start planning for that cross-generation release. And Unreal Engine, I mean, they've been using that for a long time now. So that also makes sense. It still shocks people that Arkham Knight was using Unreal Engine 3, and the way that game looks is very impressive. So this is basically just sticking to their wheelhouse for hopefully what is them returning to what they were good at in the first place, making that narrative-driven, single-player action-adventure style Batman game, and hopefully we'll say going beyond with this one. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Nintendo Direct that'll be airing here in a couple of hours. In fact, we can see Nintendo with the official announcement here on their account, where they say tune in tomorrow, March 27th, 7 a.m. Pacific or 10 a.m. Eastern Time for a live stream Nintendo Direct featuring around 30 minutes of upcoming games for Nintendo Switch. There will be no updates about Nintendo Switch 2 during this presentation. And then they follow up once again, just reminding everyone, hey, the Switch 2 will be shared, that information, on April 2nd, 6 a.m. Pacific in a Nintendo Direct. So yes, we have what looks to be 2 general Nintendo Directs, although next week's is focused specifically on the Switch 2, but there's gonna be a ton of information there. It's technically a general Direct plus in that regard. So 2 general Directs in about 7 days. That's quite a bit of information to be jam-packing there, especially with a 30-minute Direct like this. I'd be expecting like 25 games or so to be highlighted. Just, they go through almost rapid-fire pace. A lot of times it's like 60 seconds per game, and then they hit you with the sizzle reel, and before you know it, you have near 30 games that have been announced. So yes, Nintendo is about to announce a ton of stuff, I feel like, for the current Switch, and things coming out in the near future, probably up to end of summer, maybe? And that's gonna be kind of weird for people to realize, oh wow, okay, we're gonna have a lot of Switch stuff coming out, even past the Switch 2 reveal, where a lot of focus will be on that, but also these Switch 1 games are going to work on the Switch 2. So for Nintendo, looking at that large install size, yeah, let's take advantage of software sales in this regard and try to make a bunch of money after building up this install size of more than 150 million for 8 years. However, there are a couple of interesting side notes here heading into the presentation, just some fun things to speculate on and see if we get any of them right. So for example, we can see this is posted up. This is transcribed over on My Nintendo News, referring to Jeff Grubb here on his podcast, where he said, the reason I learned about this Nintendo Direct is because of a partner game, and there's going to be a game that will cause a lot of conversation, and it's not necessarily a Nintendo one. So naturally, this started having people try to just guess what exactly he's talking about. And sure, third party could be, it could be another platform holder. It could be Microsoft or Sony with a game there. And the only thing with that is I immediately paused when I realized, okay, they wouldn't be there with a Switch 2 game. They'd be there with a Switch 1 game. So how far can they push that platform now that they haven't tried to do over the last couple of years now? And I know Sony's just kind of recently started doing that. Things like the Lego Horizon game that didn't exactly do great in general, but I still feel like they would be looking to leverage the Switch or Switch 2 in some regard going forward. So while it's possible either of those could be there, would Microsoft really surprise anyone? Probably not. Hey, unless they got Master Chief Collection running on it, they'd be like, okay, that's going to cause some conversation. But not really with Microsoft. So beyond that, the third party that came to mind that would definitely cause some conversation is Palworld, mostly because they're meeting them in the courtroom. So it'd be weird if they sue them, but then also, oh yeah, you can bring Palworld to the Switch. Although who knows, maybe that's been planned for a while. That's something where I'd be like, oh, okay, that one's weird, and people are definitely going to be tweeting about that later. Now, the other thing actually has to do with Sakurai, which we can see over on his official account. He did quote tweet the Nintendo Direct announcement saying, oh, I see, and that alone is enough. That was it. It blew up online after that. It's like, oh yeah, look at that, a Direct. It's like, wait a minute. What do you mean? What do you mean? Oh, I see, Sakurai. So now people, of course, going from this to something like Kid Icarus Uprising getting a remaster, which would be really cool to see because that game, I mean, it's a good game. It was just definitely hampered by the limited control scheme that was available on the 3DS, and that is certainly a title that I think would really be able to spread its wings, no pun intended, on a system that is more capable with the Switch, and I really hope it's there. I think that'd be awesome. Otherwise, though, we'll find out here in a couple of hours if we get something weird from Sony or Microsoft or a Palworld or something people have been really wanting to see with Sakurai bringing over Kid Icarus. Next up, let's talk about PlayStation Plus Essential for the month of April, and these games will be going live April 1st, which it's always funny when companies launch stuff even into a subscription service on April Fool's Day, but Here we are. Let's take a look. This is over on PlayStation Blog. And let's see, we have RoboCop Rogue City. We have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then we have Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. Okay, so Cyber Sleuth in general, I'll be honest, those definitely merge together for me. Like, there's a couple of them, and I think they're better than Digimon Survive personally, because they're more like that standard traditional RPG style. But also you still have a bunch of different Digimon to raise and adventure with. In this case, they mentioned 320 of them to discover, and I played it for a bit. It's funny, I played this on the Vita. That's where I really remember playing this, as funny as that sounds. But I mean, it works well as I think a handheld title. However, here on the PS5, backwards compatible with the PS4. I think it'd work well actually on the Portal now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, then we also have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is a pretty fun multiplayer game. And if you have a couple of friends, and even if it's kind of like that asymmetric horror style game where you have survivors that are just trying to escape, and then you have like the family that then tries to hunt them down. And it is a good time, legitimately, with just some of their quirks and different abilities each one has versus the other. So it was a fun game that we played for a good part of a month, I feel like, and had a pretty good time with it. But to me, the standout here, certainly RoboCop Rogue City. If you have not played this game, I fully recommend it. It is a lot of fun. Definitely a callback for like if you're a fan of like the old RoboCop movie. I mean, I know the newer one is like, people looked at it and said, okay, the old RoboCop movie had definitely had parents talking quite a bit because it was like super violent and stuff, but it was just awesome. And this game kind of keeps that same aesthetic to it, and the ultra violence is there in spades. So fully recommend RoboCop Rogue City if you have not played. Obviously, it's definitely worth a download, I'll say that. And again, these will go live April 1st, so next week, definitely check them out. Next up, let's talk about Monolith Productions, which of course shut down after WB decided that, no, it wasn't going to work out with Wonder Woman, and like that was it. Over. For a very storied studio. In fact, we're going back now for something with one of their older IPs to like 2000. Yeah, so a while ago. And in this case, it's No One Lives Forever. And it's a franchise that I had it on the PC. I didn't have it on the PC, but it came out on the PC. It came out on the PS2. Then we had a second one that was on the PC. And I had heard about the game and seen it here or there, but I didn't like play it or really get into it. But I have been interested to try it out. So when I went to look around, I realized, wow, this really isn't available for sale anywhere. You have to go and get the physical disc and case with the CD key and everything on PC to buy it, quote unquote, legitimately. Well, it does appear that many companies are aware of this. We've seen GOG put up like polls where they're asking, hey, which game would you like to see patched for compatibility, we'll say, with the GOG remaster and things they're doing for preservation. And then also, Night Dive appears to be looking into this. Now, this is posted up over on VGC, where they say in a recent discussion with VGC, Night Dive studio head Stephen Kick and director of business development Larry Cooperman said they were still hopeful they could one day remaster the game despite recent developments. Saying, quote, I don't think we really know how that's going to shake out. I think that's too recent an event, and I'm not sure. There's a certain challenge to that, but again, I'm not sure how that whole thing is going to shake out at this point, and I'm still optimistic on that. That was the word I was going to use, because any time that there's just a general kind of shift in the industry, it does open some windows every once in a while for that kind of stuff. So optimism is kind of where we're at. I think that there's at least a potential for something good to come out of that, but I don't know. It's too recent. I don't want to keep on falling back on that. And then when asked if this meant they weren't giving up on their attempts to remaster the game, they replied, never give up. We don't give up. So the issue clearly is Monolith Productions is gone, and you typically go to the studio where they're known for developing the game. I know there's a whole thing when it comes to business, rights holders, publishers and stuff, but if you get the green light to remaster it, helps to maybe go to the studio that made it or be in contact with them about the idea of the game and like development process, and maybe even getting some of the, like the older stuff for a museum you might set. Like there's a lot of cool stuff you can do there. And this is definitely a franchise that now, I mean, like I said, I didn't even really play it back then. And now there's plenty of people who have never even heard of the game, but it was an interesting take on like 60s like spy stuff, and it was definitely kind of tongue-in-cheek and humorous at times, but I'd be interested in trying it if we could get it on like just current platforms, any platform, even getting it on a disc with a CD key, it's like, oh, hopefully the resolution and my setup here on the PC doesn't completely break this game. So at the very least, maybe GOG can figure something out there with the rights and a patch and then put it out for, typically they do like 10 or 15 bucks or something, because I would certainly look into it there. But definitely let me know if you were someone who had played either the first or second No One Lives Forever, and let me know what really set that apart for you back then when it came out. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Microsoft's push right now for the PlayStation 5, because we have a bit of an update when it comes to some of the sales placements and pre-orders on the system, because you can see those. How are things doing? How are they tracking on the PlayStation 5? And it does look like Microsoft is starting to take over some of the top spots on that chart. So, for example, we can see this posted up. This is over on Pure Xbox, and you can see sort of the top section here. These are like the 12 different games they have there when it comes to upcoming or pre-orders. And they say, looking at the pre-order section on the PS5 store today, Xbox has 3 games in the top 10 in the US and 5 games in the top 12 if you count the special editions of Indiana Jones and Forza Horizon 5 as well, which, I mean, that places it above things like even Death Stranding 2 right now. Elden Ring, Night Rain, it's above that with both Forza and Indiana Jones. And it's such a weird image to look at, isn't it? On the PS5, hey, here's Forza. Forza's the big one, because that Doom's been there before. Indiana Jones, the Bethesda game, and I know that Bethesda obviously with Microsoft, but like, you know what I'm saying with Forza, the long-standing Microsoft Xbox franchise. There it is, one of the top spots on the PlayStation 5. And this does seem to be showing that Microsoft's strategy here, for them, their perspective, where Satya Nadella doesn't really get the idea of exclusives. I mean, this is showing that in terms of generating revenue, he's right, but there's still that sense for many of us who are a bit older, go back to the old days of exclusives being king. This still looks weird, and the strategy seems strange. But it's hard to argue when you see yourself at the top of these charts, and it's like, look at all the money we're making for just moving these games over later even. Now, I still think you're going to see first-party Microsoft games just start going over immediately. Like Fable will probably be a big one, where it just shows up, hey, here's a PS5 logo now, it's all coming out at the same time. And then when the Switch 2 comes out, you're going to see a lot of this as well. And the thing that I'm curious is we get to a position where Microsoft, with their Xbox division, actually starts generating legit profit and revenue over like operating profit. Like all of a sudden, they're like, oh wow, Xbox is making money for us. It's not typical for that to happen for them, like, at all. Usually you have to, like, hide the numbers or move them around a bit or use a lot of percentages to try to puff up the Xbox. But if it starts generating legitimate revenue by leveraging PlayStation and Nintendo with some of these late ports, it'd be very interesting to see how Microsoft starts to talk about that Xbox division, and if they decide to make more and more aggressive moves, not just from acquisitions, but even from publishing deals. Remember, they made Ninja Gaiden 4 a reality. What else will they go out there and look for with different publishing deals? Things that maybe wouldn't be able to come together unless Phil Spencer came knocking with a big bag of money. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, have you bought a physical gaming magazine in the last 12 months? There you go, 93% say no, 7% say yes. Well, it's not like there's many that are, I guess, available technically. Like, I'm trying to think, if I go to we're usually go to a grocery store back in the day, or at like a general like Walmart or something, depending on what was in your area then. I mean, really, you'd go to a GameStop and you'd expect to see them there, or just like anything that had an electronic section. You would see a bunch of gaming magazines, but it is harder and harder to place them now. You just don't see them around as much. So, I mean, yeah, this makes perfect sense. Otherwise, you'd probably have to go online to find one that's set up through a subscription that's probably held up by just fans at that point who are making these magazines. And there are a couple that aren't currently doing that, but it's not like back in the old days where you would walk into a store, and I'm not kidding, there was an entire section almost at times of different gaming magazines, and they put them in the plastic bag that had the demo disc there with it. So you'd have like the Xbox, like original Xbox magazine, and have a demo disc. So you go home, not only with a magazine that you're probably reading in the car anyway, but when you get home, you pop the disc in, and you have a bunch of demos to try out along with videos and stuff to go with the article. So it was a really cool experience. I guess technically now you can do all of that still by just going on your phone or turning on your system and going to the store and downloading demos like crazy, but I don't know, there's just something different about getting that disc, popping it into the system and just seeing all kinds of cool new stuff, and then reading the magazine later. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from XPlay, who says, Nate's hot streak will not die. Fans need to trust this man more. Okay, so the thing with Nate that I think people are starting to notice is if Nate doesn't know something's happening or really know much about, I don't know, some kind of rumor going around, he doesn't necessarily pretend like he does. Like, he doesn't feel like he has to say something about everything. You know what I mean? Sometimes he just goes, I don't know, like, that's it, I haven't heard of this. Or like, he's not worried about being out of the loop on something. He'd rather, okay, if he knows about something, he wants to be like more straightforward and accurate about it. And I think that has helped him quite a bit, because we've seen that these personalities come and go on places like Twitter, where they'll have like an avatar for a game character or something, and then they know about everything, and then it turns out they really didn't know much about anything. So in Nate's case, he's been around for a while, and when he speaks, people are listening now clearly, because he's very selective about when he does it, and I think that's the correct move. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here on a card, or maybe to hear more about the Direct and a bit of a preview I did yesterday, I'll leave that right below it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.